want a second look.
Yeah, there's something about this one, isn't there? Familiar somehow.
We think we're stuck in a specific fragment in time, and we've been repeating that same fragment over and over again.
But the flirting's over, Sherlock. Daddy's had enough now.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, TV Reviews Connections in Mind. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the latest live-action Star Wars series to premiere on Disney+. All 6 episodes are now available to stream. It is directed by Deborah Chow and takes place approximately 10 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 3 and approximately 7 or 8 years prior to the events of the original Star Wars, Episode 4, A New Hope. And once again, it stars Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, struggling with his life in hiding on Tatooine while watching over young Luke. And when a call from an old friend asks for his help, it is up to Obi-Wan to leave the planet to render assistance while also preventing his discovery for not only his safety, but for the safety of young Luke and young Leia. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first and foremost, but then I'll get into spoiler talk later on in the review. But just so you know, there will be spoilers later on, so if you haven't seen it yet, be mindful of that. However, I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first. So with that said, without further ado, let's get into, is Obi-Wan Kenobi a worthy addition to the Star Wars pantheon? Is it a good Star Wars series? Is it worth your time to binge on Disney+? I would say this is a very fun addition to the Star Wars franchise, namely because at only 6 episodes, shorter than some of the other Disney+ Star Wars series, you can get a lot more done in that. There really isn't as much filler in this as Book of Boba Fett, for instance. This seems to be much more contained, even though you're probably looking at about closer to 6 hours worth of content. It doesn't feel that long for the vast majority of it, and that's where I think the strength is. And really the strength of the series lies, once again, with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Age-wise, he's getting very close to when Alec Guinness was when A New Hope was filmed, or at least timeline-wise, this being about 7 or 8 years prior to A New Hope, age-wise that lines up. So, this is perfect casting, and people who don't like the prequels often say, Ewan McGregor was the best part of those 3 movies, and he really proves it again here, because Ewan McGregor really sells the fact that, this is a different Obi-Wan from what we saw in the prequels. He is a broken man at the beginning of this episode. He saw his entire way of life, disintegrate pretty much before his eyes. He saw his best friend, who murdered so many Jedi and younglings. He had to stop him by any means necessary and leave him, armless and legless on Mustafar, and bereft of hope. Ewan McGregor sells that, and he does a really good job of that. And, there's also a good character arc that builds up here where we see this sort of a transition in phase for Obi-Wan, where he goes from the confident, at the prime of his life, Obi-Wan in the prequels, to broken here. We see that transition to what he will become when we first see him on Tatooine in A New Hope, when he discovers Luke after he's attacked by the Sand People. And you see that change start to happen throughout these 6 episodes, and I think they do a really good job showing that. Another standout cast member is, and I didn't expect to see this when we went into this, but I'm glad that we did go this route for the most part, is Vivian Lyra Blair, I believe I pronounced that right, as young Leia. And again, she really pulls off young Leia quite well, and as child actors go, she does a really good job of it. And yes, at times I feel like Star Wars has never made a secret of it being marketed towards children, and there's times in this Obi-Wan series that especially scenes with young Leia, it really does seem like those certain scenes were tailor-made to appeal to the children demographic, and it seems a little bit more obvious than others. But again, that's their demographic. That's, fine, perfect. They get their moments. What do we get, as full-grown adults, people who grew up with the prequels like I did, and you get a lot of that too. You get to see the formation of the Empire, and you get to see it's no secret that Darth Vader is back in this series, and once again, Hayden Christensen is back as Anakin. He's actually inside the suit at least part of the time, I believe. I don't remember exactly how much he was inside the suit, but for a good portion of his scenes on camera, that is Hayden Christensen in the suit. And even they also have a couple of flashback scenes into the prequel era, and I think, as I recall reading, they did not do a whole ton of de-aging. And while maybe that could have maybe a little bit more de-aging would have been more prudent, just because of how much time the flashback, back in time the flashbacks were. I mean, Hayden Christensen still looks incredible for 20 years after the fact of the prequels, and he also does a really good job. I think a lot of people have been saying, this is redemption for Hayden Christensen for the prequels, and yeah, I think this does go to show that he can be a good actor, and he can play the role of Anakin Skywalker apart from some bad dialogue choices here or there. So there's that front on there. So yeah, really strong on that front. And also, the set design, you get to see some other planets within the Empire. You see Vader's castle more so than you did in Rogue One. Get to see the Inquisitors. So the characters of the Inquisitors. And I have not seen any of the Clone Wars or Rebels series, so I know that I believe it's Rebels that the Inquisitors are really in, and so they're kind of ported over from that. I have no idea that, but the Inquisitors in this one, I think for the most part they did a good job. However, the character of Third Sister, and we'll get into that. I'm not going to do any spoilers here, but as far as the character arc goes throughout it, there are some things that she did well, and some things that it's definitely not the actress's fault, but I think it's definitely a writer's fault that they kind of wrote it in such a way that I'm not sure that they knew what was going on that front. So that kind of drags down, but also, going through all this, once we get to the end of episode 6 here, I think the biggest, I won't call it a sin of this series, but it really doesn't necessarily justify its existence, in my opinion. Again, this is sort of, we've always, there's been, speculation for years, like, cast get Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan to do an Obi-Wan movie or something. It's like, great, now we have it. Now that we do have it, it's like, okay, that was fun. This is pretty much the definition of a disposable Star Wars series, in my opinion. Like, there's certain things that, yes, there's some good moments in there. There's some great action moments in here, especially, again, this isn't a spoiler just because I believe there's promotional material around it, but Obi-Wan and Vader do meet up here, so there is that, and when they do meet up, it's pretty spectacular, and so there is stuff around that, but put all that aside, it's like, this is kind of, Star Wars junk food in a sense. Like, yeah, that was fun. Am I going to go back and rewatch this again? If I, in a movie rewatch, it's like, oh, this is going to fill in a key bit of information that I really needed to know going into this, or put some things in really new context, or add something to it. In my opinion, no. I mean, yeah, I'll get into this in my spoiler bit, but there is a sort of comparison to be made here between Obi-Wan Kenobi the series and Rogue One, and I think Rogue One did its job better, in my opinion, than Obi-Wan did. But like I said, this isn't a bad series by any means. There's a lot of good stuff in this series, but I just don't think it's essential for any in the Star Wars pantheon. It's just kind of I look at it and say, that was nice, and then just kind of put it off to the side. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to rewatch this again, just because it's like, okay, cool, it exists, great. So, I hope that's helpful you. If I was going to give Obi-Wan Kenobi the series a letter grade, I would say this is a solid A. Actually, no, let's knock it down to an A-, just because, like I said, this is a series that is perfectly serviceable. It's very, there's a lot of fun to be had with here. Ewan McGregor does a good job with this. Hayden Christensen does a good job with this as well, but like I said, there's not enough in my mind to grip anything going forward from this. So, I mean, those are my spoiler-free thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as to certain plot developments and character arcs that may have seemed familiar to you, and where you may have seen them before. Now, there's one big one, one big trope in the room that I feel like I need to address, and I'm nowhere near the first to point this out, but it's just too egregious not to keep mentioning it. The trope of the older man going after to find a young girl and or even young child in general and safeguard them from evil people trying to take them. We've seen this trope so many times, and just to pull one example from recent movie history that stuck with me is this is very much a Logan situation where Obi-Wan is the Logan in this franchise, and in this situation, and Leia is the X-23 at this point. So there's that going on there, and I gotta say, this is one where this trope has been used so many times. Like I said, I only just plucked one example to mention in here, but it's not the trope. Again, part of what I say with this is that just because a trope is familiar doesn't mean you can't do anything unique with it, and it's just okay, it's a tool in a toolkit. You pull it out. All right, what are you going to use this tool to build? And in this one, it's just happened to be this trope in the Star Wars universe. Great. So there's that, and I mentioned it before, the Rogue One connection. Now, there's also, there's the Rogue One connection between, pre-original trilogy Star Wars universe. You got the Empire and the beginnings of the Rebellion going on there. You see other facets of the Rebellion that you didn't get to see in the original trilogy. You get to see, Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa in both of these. So there's that going on, and but what I mentioned before, when I feel like Rogue One did this better than Obi-Wan, is that what Rogue One did, especially at the very end, is it adds something to. If you watch Rogue One right before A New Hope, you feel like you lead right into it, and that enhances the experience of watching A New Hope, in my opinion. Watching Obi-Wan right now, I don't think it really enhances anything. In fact, I think it kind of distracts from a lot of things, especially in that final fight with Obi-Wan and Vader, when Vader's like kind of on his ropes. He's got his helmet kind of slashed in half, so you could see his Anakin's face underneath the helmet. And there's one moment where Vader's basically telling Obi-Wan, it's like, oh no, you did not kill Anakin, I did. It's like, that felt like it was put in there just so you can appease those people who are still confused by, oh, why did Obi-Wan lie to Luke when he said Vader killed his father? And then it didn't sit well when we get to Return of the Jedi, it's like, oh, so what I told you was true from a certain point of view. It's like, we did not need that at all. I don't know who needed that, and seriously, you couldn't have just left it as, it was, he was, Obi-Wan was an old man. He was seeing it from a certain point of view, and it was his way of viewing the events from his past. It's like, you couldn't just leave it at that. No, okay, fine. And there was a lot of, canon tiptoeing going on here, just as in Rogue One did as well. But this one, I feel like they had to work a little bit more in there, and I think for the most part, they actually did do a good job. However, I don't think they want to push their luck with a second season because, again, there's so many things that they could, foul up with canon. The closest thing that they kind of did was, was when when Leia gives the message in A New Hope when she's like, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. It's like, okay, she mentioned that, but you didn't want to mention the fact that he rescued you from kidnapping all those years ago? No, maybe you repressed that memory? I don't know. But there's only so much canon that you can kind of gently bend to make a new series, and I think for the most part they did a really good job of that. But like I said, I don't think they want to push their luck with a season 2 of this. So I think they did a good one-off with this. Let's just leave it at that. What did you think of Obi-Wan Kenobi? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree? Disagree? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to check out my other TV reviews, which right now I did put out my review of Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2, those last 2 episodes that just dropped on Netflix this weekend. I'm looking for my next movie review, which will be for Thor Love and Thunder, which comes out this week, July 8th. And if you like this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.